Hello! It's time to open up the big book of colour charts, and today I thought I would start it off by swatching out all 120 Faber Castell Polychromos pencils. Yay! So let's get into it! I've had this tin for a few years now, so I've used these pencils quite a lot, and they are no longer all exactly the same. They're all at different heights, but normally I keep them on my pencil shelves, which if you've seen my studio tour from last year, I've got these huge ones that I got from the art shop. They were giving them away. They're the old Derwent display cases, and they couldn't use them anymore because they updated them all. So they were throwing them out or giving them away to whoever got there first, and that was me. So now they're all in my studio, and that's where I keep my pencils because they're so much easier just to grab and use. Whereas I find that in the tins they're a little bit more difficult, and you have to lay them out, and they take a lot of space up on the table, especially this set because it has 3 different layers of pencils. But let's open it without further ado. They are so pretty, aren't they? I really do like them. So I'm not entirely sure that these are in the exact order in which they first came, because I have rearranged them to my liking when I was using them and putting them into my shelves. So I basically took these pencils out as they are arranged there, so I don't have to fiddle with them later, because they are going to go back on the shelves once I've finished with this review. But that's the top one. Here's the middle one. You can see that one's been used quite a lot. And the bottom shelf of pencils tray. That's the word I want. I go through the blacks so quickly. I do have some spare ones. These are usually quite easy to find as singles. So once you've started to use up a pencil in your set, it's usually not too difficult to go out and buy a replacement for that, which is so much easier than having to buy another set because these are not cheap. They are really lovely pencils. They are professional quality, and look, it even says it on there. So I thought today, first of all, I'm going to swatch the pencils. I have not done that for a very long time, and I don't even know where my swatches are for these, so I will be doing them again for myself as well. The other reason why I like to keep my pencils outside of the tins is, can you see how flexible that tray is? And I may or may not have managed to spill all of my pencils onto the floor at least once, but probably more than that, and it's very frustrating. So these at least have little stretchy handles, which does make it easier to lift them out. I have to give them that. It's just that I tend to forget they're there, and I do pick them up and get a bit clumsy. Underneath, and I can't really show it because these pencils are all going to fall out, there is a nice soft layer of foam to protect the pencils underneath. So they have done it really well with their packaging, and all of the pencils stay nice and snug in the tin when they're not being used. But of course you can put them in your own pencil rolls and things like that. I always keep my tins, I never throw them out, because every so often I might just want to do this and put them back in the tin so that I can show them to you all. Alright, I'm going to get the big book of swatches and we'll start swatching them. So here we go. I do apologise if my hand gets in the way on some of these. I found it much harder to swatch in a book than I do on just a flat piece of paper because I had to hold the book down. Did you see there that I had to rub a colour out and do it again? That's because my pencils are in a completely different order to what they originally came in. And I may have forgotten to check the names on the barrels first in a couple of occasions, but thankfully a kneaded eraser rubs out the pencil quite well. I adore these pencils so much. How pretty are they? This paper's actually holding up really well. I know that there were a few people who were quite dubious about whether or not this paper would be any good, and it's perfectly fine for swatching pencils. Probably not if you were trying to do really complex mixing of colours and things like that, but just for a plain swatch, I mean, it works just as well as printer paper, and I'm quite happy with it. It's nice to have everything all in one book too. I'm not going to talk through every single specific colour here, mainly because it would just take forever. I did actually speed this footage up quite a lot because I think originally it was about 20 minutes or something, and I'm going, that's probably a little bit too long for a video, and most people's attention spans, including my own, are not going to last for that long. So I just put this up so you can just see how pretty the colours are. It's hopefully easy enough to read the names of them, and for the most part I've kept my hand hand out of it as much as possible, though I did forget on a few of them, mainly because I've got music playing in the background which you can't hear, and I was bopping along to that, and so of course I get into that zone and I do forget that I'm filming myself. I don't think I did too badly though, and hopefully when I do some more swatching videos in the future I will improve with this. This side of the page was most difficult, and you can see I'm holding it down. I had my fingers pressing on a separate piece of paper just so that the oils from my hands don't go into the paper and make it more difficult to swatch. Though really, I don't think it would be too much of a problem because the Faber Castell Polychromos are oil-based pencils as well. There are other brands out there such as Caran d'Ache Luminance and Prismacolor Premier. Those are wax-based, so they are a bit softer than the Polychromos here, which are a firmer pencil. But to the Polychromos' advantage, because they are slightly more firm, they are fantastic for sharpening. It's really easy to get a nice sharp point on them. You'll see a lot of my pencils here are very blunt, and that's just because I had not got around to sitting there and sharpening them all. It's quite a long job, and I was a bit tired when I did this. I just wanted to swatch the colours and not have to sharpen everything first. But they have a huge advantage in that they don't break easily at all. I've broken a couple, maybe, but really, for the most part, they'll go in pretty much any kind of sharpener, and they are so good for that. So you don't waste a lot of pencil leads snapping them off, like certain other brands can be very guilty of. Another brand which is oil-based are the Derwent Light Fast pencils. I will be swatching those at a future time. Those are also really beautiful, but today I'm just going to focus on the Polychromos. What I love about the Polychromos as well is that the whole barrel of the pencil is coloured, whereas a few other brands only have colours just at the end of the pencil, but I find that the Polychromos are really easy to see and pick out of something like a pencil case when they're all jumbled together, and it's not so simple to pick out an individual colour. There are tons of reviews about the Faber Castell Polychromos pencils, which is why I didn't really go too much into the specifics like how wide is the barrel and how thick is the lead. Those are kind of technical things that don't really bother me so much. What I'm more interested in is how well the pencils actually work, and I would give the Faber Castell Polychromos a 10 out of 10. They are so nice to work with. They lay down really smoothly, you can blend them really well, and I love the fact that they come in such a large number of colours. 120 is pretty awesome. The only set that I know of that has more, actually there are two sets. I think the Holbeins come in a set of 150, and also the Prismacolor Premiers come in a set of 150. So those are the only other two brands I know that have more colours than the Polychromos. So you can't really go wrong with these. They're very reasonably priced. They're on the expensive side, but not as expensive as some of the other brands out there like Caran d'Ache and the Derwent Lightfast, which are super pricey. Here we are with them all swatched out. It's rather lovely to see at least one page spread of this book covered in pretty colours. So the paper held up quite well. If I just flip over, I really should have thought to put a piece of paper in there, but thankfully this page doesn't have anything other than a colouring page, and the one swatch of that extra violet that I have, which is a light violet and is apparently a discontinued one. This side, okay, when I touch it there, I can feel there's a little bit of raised ridging from the fact that I've coloured it and it's put some pressure through the paper, but it's not significantly bad, and there's only a very, very vague ghosting, even though I was pressing, relatively hard to get a decent amount of colour. I didn't press too hard though, because otherwise then it just is going to wreck the paper really quickly. So what I'm going to do now is a drawing with the coloured pencils. I'm going to use some nicer paper and we'll see what I can come up with. So let's get into it. The drawing I'm doing today is of two lovebirds on a white background. The photo reference comes from Coloured Pencil magazine, and it's actually from a tutorial that they've posted up, and I shall put down a link in the description below so you can find it for yourself. I did not actually follow the tutorial. What I'm doing here is my own method which I've developed over the years. Because I'm filming 2 videos a week, I do need to increase the speed at which I make pieces of art, and I've had to adapt my style to take into account the need to speed up my pieces and finish them quicker. Coloured pencil drawings do take a long time if you want to do them in a very hyper-realistic manner, and you'll see a lot of artists will do one entire area completely rendered at a time, whereas I actually find that very difficult to do even when I'm not in a hurry. So what I do instead is go over all of the picture with a very light layer using the colours that I think will be good for the base, and this way I can get a far better map of where all of the colours are going to go on top. And if you do it lightly enough, you can go over those or rub them out quite easily, so it's not too big of a problem if you make a mistake. And I just find that I'm more of a whole picture kind of person. I find it very hard just to go on small details at the beginning. So I've just done everything. As you can see, I'm now laying my hand on a piece of vellum, which actually came out of that BB Craft box, and I just cut a piece up. It's very excellent for that. It stops the pencil from smudging, and I find that the black smudge glove I'm using does actually pick up the pencil from the paper and smudge it all over the place, whereas this vellum paper does not touch anything at all, and it's excellent. So it's a great hand rest, if nothing else. Now I'm starting to add in another layer of colour, and I've got some brilliant footage here which went completely out of focus because it was focusing my hand. But I'm using odorless mineral spirits to blend the pencil out and take away any little white patches. Phew, it came back into focus here. And so by doing this, it gives a nice background layer, and then I can work on it a lot more once it is dried. So I did exactly the same thing for this bird. It's about 2 layers worth of pencil, and that gives enough for the mineral spirits to actually blend the pencil out. If you try to blend only a very light layer of pencil, it doesn't work very well, so a couple of layers are better, and you can see that once that spirit gets on there, it really does make a lot of difference. Then I waited for everything to dry, and I went over the whole drawing with a lot more pencil. I've actually sharpened them a lot more now, and I just worked on this drawing until I was happy. The polychromos are really excellent for layering and blending, and they also build up colour very, very nicely. They become really, really saturated, and they are thoroughly wonderful to work with. Oh, and the paper I'm using is Fabriano hot pressed 300 GSM watercolour paper. It's also really fantastic for pencils as well as watercolour. And it's nice and smooth, but has just enough of a texture or tooth to really pick up the pencils and help with that layering. So I really like to use this paper a lot. So here's the printed photo that I was working from, and here's my final drawing with the Polychromos pencils. Got it pretty close. I mean, obviously mine is a little bit less refined than the photograph. There's far more detail in here, and I guess if I spent many more hours I could try and get it a lot more photorealistic, but I'm happy with it. I prefer a stylized style and it was a lot of fun using these pencils. So do I recommend the Faber Castell Polychromos? Why yes I do. The reasons I say that is because it has 120 colours and these are high quality, they don't break, they're mostly light fast. There are a few in here which aren't, but for the general part most of them are highest level and very good. See how that one's got 1 star? There are a couple in this general area which are 1 star. That is the lowest rating. Most of the pencils are 3 stars and there are a few 2 stars. So as an overall set, these are fantastic, and you can of course get smaller sets. They come in a whole variety. I'll link down Faber Castell's website and a page to all of these pencils so you can read for yourself. If you're collecting coloured pencils, do be sure to get a set of these. They are fabulous. I really love them. They're really bright, they layer well, and I don't really have anything negative to say about them at all. So this is a very positive review, and I hope you enjoyed watching me draw this. I had a lot of fun colouring in these birds, and I just enjoyed the fact that these were so bright, and the reference picture that I found is a lovely colourful one. So that's all I have to say about the Faber Castell Polychromos. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give this a thumbs up, and I will see you all again in my next video, which will be really soon. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Swatch you later. Bye!